Sometimes I can't leave, right?
All right, so
We'll be done by
call together the Douglas Stakeholder Committee for Monday, September 30th in the Community Development Rule at 5:03 p.m. So Adam Furno is not in attendance, and Carol Gugalinski and Margaret Bacon at this time. So just for attendance. So next item, just organization secretary.
We did get the minutes taker to commit to this committee.
Okay.
So she's all set.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Great. I guess item
As long
3.
as we don't go past January.
Yeah. So item 3, A, just reviewing the administration order from the EPA.
Yeah. So the EPA finally hit us with an order.
That's all right.
Yeah, we knew this was coming,
Yep.
and they gave us till May 31st to get this enacted, post-construction bylaw.
Well, they're giving us to the 31st because of town meeting.
Right.
It's up to the public to decide whether it happens or not.
Right.
So this is nothing, we just need to have something to present.
Yep.
Just for clarification, James, the director here, Chow, how does he align with Nick, the consultant? Is Nick reporting to him?
No, Nick's just our consultant for MS4. He, when he submits his annual report, he submits it to a different division of the EPA.
Okay. So he's our / the state,
Yeah, he's our consultant.
our consultant?
Yep, he's under contract with us.
Okay.
It's a private company.
Private company?
Yeah,
All right.
comprehensive environmental.
All right. I just want to clarify Nick's role in this and
Yep.
how that all reporting structure is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, he reports our finding, our MS4 to the state annually. We just submitted our annual report
Okay.
Monday. No,
Okay.
Any questions about the order? We can move on to the next item. We good with the order?
it's kind of a
Yeah.
scare
Well,
tactic, but
well,
it's kind of effective.
An incentive?
Yep.
Is there, I didn't read it, is there anything in there? What is the fines on that?
Nothing listed,
Just curiosity.
nothing that I saw.
I didn't lay it out here, but they just cited a bunch of regulations that we
Yeah.
probably have penalties in there.
Yeah.
It does reference the 2016 MS4 permit required annual, so we already have that in place.
Yep.
And it just discussed that, it's fourth and fifth year of the annual report. I think it's just interesting that it's highlighting that.
I did read that.
Yeah, and then that 3 years, basically every 3 years we're supposed to update and go from there, so.
Yep.
And then the date requesting the town by the May 31st of 2025.
Yep.
So, just the highlights of it.
Yep.
What they asked for is to get your stormwater bylaw, to get your general bylaws updated.
I was looking in the wrong room.
And to get your and then to get your subdivision regs updated, and then your zoning bylaws.
All right.
In that order.
Just, all right.
Sorry
Yep,
about that,
no
I was in
problem.
the wrong room looking for
Just,
it.
I guess just for the record, in the minute taker at 5:06, Carol Gugalinski and Margaret Bacon joined us for the minute taker.
Say, Margaret.
Hi there. Hi. Sorry.
No,
So just to
what?
catch you two up, we're just talking about item 3A, which is the order from the EPA that came over. It's in our packet.
Yep.
Yeah.
I read that.
So we're not too far ahead of anybody in any situation, so. Okay. So we're just gonna move on to, go ahead.
I had a question before we get into the,
Just tell me. Order?
no, okay, you're going to the
Yeah.
bylaws, okay. Yes.
Yeah, so we'll move on to 3B. So reviewing the bylaw, stormwater bylaw from other communities. Go ahead, if you had a question on that.
I had a question on the existing bylaw that was drafted. Who was the author of that bylaw and who did the edits on it?
Nick Christo, our consultant, drafted it,
Okay,
and we've done the edits in-house, and town council's also reviewed it.
okay. I was just curious as to, and the reason why I asked that is because in some of Nick's comments, it talks about which maps you can adopt. And there's one that seems to me like a no-brainer. It's the simplest one, it meets the requirements.
Yep.
And why would you go from that level to that level?
Right. Yeah, I'm just looking to adopt probably the basic,
That's,
the MS4 map, just that little one over there. He modified his to be the urbanized area, which is, I mean,
Yeah,
this-
so in the remarks, when we're on that, in the email, there's in a way three options, really. My understanding. There's the whole town, there's, I think, MS4,
yep,
or the restrictions inside the MS4, which is even less and smaller.
Yep.
And and that would be the minimum required needed to make this all work.
yeah.
Yeah.
and
So-
it's expressly says in his email, it says,
Yep. Oh, yeah.
it says, to have the,
It's at the end
Is it?
of our packets.
it says that we only need to, we only address what goes into US waters. So it has to, there's two,
That actually dumps into the Mumford River.
so it have to go into the actual river. So I don't know why would we be looking at any of the other areas if we're just trying to meet the requirements?
So we're trying to meet the minimum requirement.
I think,
Right.
Yeah.
I think we, at our last meeting, if that changed, I think that was the poll that we kind of went around the room, what do you guys feel? And I think that was the census. And I think we, based upon that census of the group, I would also
The
then,
consensus of the group, but also the community. That's
Correct.
why this has never, ever made it through a town meeting.
no, agreed.
It's because of this.
Yeah,
And that's why this is being formed, because the town is pretty much like, no way.
yeah. No, and I think that's the census, us as a census as a group,
Correct.
census of the community. And I think we have to align that with what map
We're gonna be dealing with.
we point towards.
Right.
Let's see.
Because right now we've got like 3 maps,
Right.
right?
You're right.
So,
It'd be the EPA MS4 regulated area is the
No,
minimum
that-
requirement.
okay,
So that one's the minimum
He's saying-
requirement right there.
okay, he's
That's the
saying-
minimum.
He's saying that the attached figure 1 shows regulated urbanized areas, which is what regulated on the MS4, which is the starting point. With that area, technically, only areas that discharge to the town's MS4 drainage system and go to the waters of the US are regulated. Curbs and catch basins do not really matter. So that tells me that if you look at that map, that shows you all of the areas that have catch basins, retention ponds.
Yep.
They don't discharge it, they discharge it to a retention pond. Why is that area regulated?
But
No.
again, and Adam knows best on this. I think that's the map that they draft. But I
Right.
think then you have to then tie it to if you are in the red zone in the map, and I think that
Discharge.
and you
And,
discharge is the
right.
key.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you have to be in the red zone type of thing in the map overlay.
So it has to go into the drainage system,
Correct.
the municipal drainage system, not
It's not a retention
not a
pond.
retention pond. It
Because
has to go into a town
Correct.
Correct.
drainage system, and
Yeah.
it has to go to
The-
a waterway.
Yes, the waterway in Mumford
So
River.
that's gonna shrink down substantially that whole map.
Correct.
Because it's very, and Adam would know best.
But even retention basins, once you reach a certain level, dump into a wetland.
Yeah.
But it isn't, it
It's not-
depends on what the
it's
wetland
waterway.
feeds, depends on what it contributes to.
It,
It's only
some of them,
things.
some of them are holding ponds, right?
Right.
Full retention. But we're also talking about, again, when we get started with this was the Mumford River, town's drainage. And Adam's got a map that shows, like, I think it's in blue, where the town drainage is and stuff like that, and then which one triggers from there. So I think identifying which is the minimum map that we're gonna work off of, and if any parcels are draining into the,
And if I think at the first meeting, within the first 20 minutes, the question I brought up is, we need to have a current map showing the minimum requirements, so we can all look at the same thing. Right now, it's still all scatter, because only part of that is correct and only part of that is correct. None of them are correct on what we're looking to do.
Right.
yeah, and that's why the important thing to your highlighting, Mike, is that's why we have to have that and statement, that, you are in this, we're using this map, and you're draining from your commercial parcel land or whatever into the town drainage, which dumps into the Mumford.
Right, so
But
it says the curbs and catch basins don't really matter. It's only based on what can get to the waters of the US.
Waters of the US doesn't
through
mean,
Drainage, infrastructure, and/or roadway runoff.
so waters of the US is beyond just the Mumford River.
Not according to the state, because that's MS4 up there.
Through
Right.
drainage infrastructure.
Well, so this is supposed to be for the EPA, which is federal,
Yeah.
correct? Now, in Douglas's, behind, are we meeting a deadline when we have to get this thing?
Yep, well,
And
we're
what happens
trying
if-
to.
What happens if we don't meet that deadline?
Whatever the order highlights.
Yeah.
It doesn't highlight
Okay.
anything other than,
A scolding?
They could ask us to remove all of our infrastructure from discharging into the Mumford and
Yeah.
they handle it all locally. I'm not sure. Like,
Okay,
it
so-
could be that bad, who knows?
So why are we, so I guess I hear Mumford and then I hear the waters of the United States. Two different things.
Well, I think they look to see where it's going after the Mumford.
Right, but, so the Mumford is only certain areas down there.
Right.
But now let's just say, for example, up here, I mean, this eventually dumps into a wetland, which is the waters of the United States. It would fall under that definition.
Well, I
So-
don't know what, I don't think a wetland is the waters of the United States.
Yeah,
I think it has to be a flowing
I think if you look up the
river.
definition of a wetland, trust me.
What, no,
It's a water.
actually, didn't they try that? Then the Supreme Court overruled them on that one. Remember? Not too long ago. Yeah, they were saying all this stuff was the waters of the United States, and they went before the Supreme Court, and they got overruled within like the last 2 years. Remember that, Dan? Yeah.
So how would that affect, if you have a retention area, all the water goes into the retention area?
Right.
It doesn't, it's designed to handle the.
Right.
Under your flood.
Well, it's designed to handle a certain amount of water, like a bathtub, but then it discharges a bunch of water so that the flows pre and post are the same.
Right.
Right.
Okay, so you got to retaining some, but it's still discharging at a certain rate.
But it doesn't discharge into a field, and discharge into anything.
yeah.
No, they
It discharge
discharge
river.
into a wetland, typically. 'Cause-
No, it don't.
Well, a lot of times they're built because they're in the low point.
Not necessarily. The solar project on Oak Street, they built the retention ponds in the field,
That's
and they permeate into a field.
Yeah.
So that aspect is totally false.
But they're supposed to permeate into a field.
Or wherever.
Right,
So,
right.
so having, you can't go and pick and choose
Yeah.
here, and that's why they have the zoning maps as a centralized area to concentrate on all that.
Right,
That's
so
why they do it.
when I talked to the EPA on the phone, they said the minimum that we have to do is within the defined MS4 regulated area.
Right.
Which is that plan on the left.
On the left?
Yes. I said that is the minimum that we can do.
Yeah, it's behind you.
If we want to add more to it, then we could do that, but the minimum we have to do is that.
That
All right.
one way over
Yes.
there.
So that's the map we're gonna work off of?
Yeah,
Well,
even though it's
I-
based off of 2012 census. It doesn't
Well,
have the
I-
most recent census data, but that's the one that they said we have to go
I
by.
think that contradicts,
Who is yours?
what Nick is saying. He's saying there's three
Correct.
ways you can go.
Yeah.
So don't,
That's a
and
starting
I'm
point.
gonna speak out on this here. Don't be putting words out that aren't actually true from what we're reading in these emails coming back. In these emails coming back, what you just said is 100% false. It is MS4, but there is also a zone inside the MS4 that all that you gotta worry about. So the email. If not, then we shouldn't be getting the emails.
So,
In his position on that was, Nick's position on that was that you could take three routes. That blankets all of the MS4, so there's parcels in there that, and he said the reason for that is simply it's the easiest.
yeah.
Well, the easiest isn't the best. I mean, he's talking about people's property and potentially costing thousands of dollars. And I don't agree with just saying because it's easy.
Correct.
Yeah.
Is
Oh, yeah.
just the best route to take because
Correct.
you're putting all these,
So,
expensive, very expensive
Yeah.
tasks on landowners.
yeah. I think, why couldn't we adopt the third map here? Because the difference between 1 and 2 is just the highlighted area. It's over the zoning, right? So there's really, those are the same. 1 and 2 are the same. It's just over the zoning overlay.
I think we first need to define what the US right-of-ways are.
Well, I think that's
And
an
then-
open question.
And then speak with, and have Adam, once we get a definition of what US waterways, and then look at the, because it says "and" in his email.
Okay.
So "and" at the end where it discharges
Right,
in the,
Right.
from the road, "and," so it's full.
What Nick had
Not just-
originally proposed was for it to cover the urbanized area, which is in this plan,
Right.
which is the same as that MS4 area.
Right.
I mean, nothing, just covers some of that on David Street. That's it.
Right, that's the base map, which,
Right.
we can reduce that from, but in according to the way I understand it.
Yeah.
you know what, you know how they ended up with that waters of the United States? It was the farmers out in the Midwest. They were hitting them on all of this stuff, and so they took it to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court overruled them on this, on the waters of the United States. They was, you know, like, they weren't saying like what you're saying, that, oh yeah, it's all, eventually it gets there. Well, the Supreme Court overruled it.
Well, and I think size comes into play in all that too, you know? So I know out there in the farmers, they had these little isolated kettle ponds.
Yeah.
That the EPA used to say was a water of the United States. So I think that's what got overruled, that no longer qualifies, those kettle ponds.
Okay, but it still doesn't meet the criteria of the municipal stormwater infrastructure. It has to have that and discharge into.
Yeah, okay,
Correct.
so it's gotta have both.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
So
But most drainage dumps into
I think it's the point source is what they're really concerned about. Coming down through Main Street and the pipes that just dump into the river.
Correct.
most drainage dumps into wetland areas eventually.
But then, you know, I mean, if you look at the rural areas and a retention pond, then it becomes filtrated right into the retention pond before it dumps in. Where to
Well, it's treated, then that's-
Correct. Colin's point is
Yeah.
down the street, the water never gets treated.
Right.
It picks up all the oils and everything, all the
Exactly,
dirt,
right.
and then dumps in the river.
Yeah, right.
So I think that's the point of this, because when Matt put together the charter and everything else was around the Mumford River and us just charging into it. That was the point. So I think that's why we have to have an and statement saying if you're in this map area and you are dumping into the street, which dumps into the
Which dumps into the
the
river.
river, that's what we're very concerned.
Well,
Because all the other water is treated.
Yeah,
The retention area
Right,
is
yeah,
also
okay.
treated.
yeah.
Treated.
Yes.
Right.
I guess. Yeah, I mean, for the next meeting, if you wanna dig up what a water, if we wanna go there, with what a water of the USA means.
Yeah, I will.
Carol can pull up the hers thing, but that'd be good.
So maybe for our purposes tonight, we're just gonna use this map so we don't get hung up on which map we're using right now until we get more clarification on.
Right, because it would either be this and/or smaller than this.
Correct.
Right.
And/or, exactly.
And/or. So right now, it's unknown, but from what I'm seeing on these
Yep.
other maps, I'm gonna assume this area will be of a smaller area. But it's a generalized baseline that this would be the maximum at the extreme
Yep.
that is gonna be allowed.
Okay.
So we would need Adam to look up all the areas of point source where it discharges into
And he does have a map.
the drainage.
He does have an MS4 map that shows his town drainage and where.
And we would identify those
Correct.
and then where that discharges into.
Correct.
So,
Okay. So this is the urbanized area map, right? For.
So it's very specific. And it's only based on what can get to waters of the US through drainage infrastructure and/or roadway runoff.
Of the town, right?
Of the town.
Municipal
That's it.
drainage.
That is a very specific guideline that he wrote in there. So this here, there's probably gonna be many areas that don't have that happening.
I think the downtown area will probably be most of that because everything's at the river.
Yep.
Correct.
Yeah. I mean, coming down Depot Street, hitting Main Street, you know what I mean? And where all that goes. Adam does have a map. I think that's, that with this tied together will show
Correct.
what's going in the street, what's going down down the thing. I think that's the key, and that's the and/or of the size of this reduced.
I think appendix 2 does show that. It shows, I think, the flows and Which way exactly?
that one there tends to show more of the true scenario
Yes.
Yep.
than this here broader swipe, especially all up in this area,
Yep.
all right? And that picture there is much more, I'm gonna say, on the accurate side than this one.
That actually has all the infrastructure and
Right.
Yep.
what's going on, where the catch
Right.
basins are,
Okay.
where they're going to.
So we're good right now just to utilize this map.
Yeah, yeah,
And then
to
we'll
move forward,
work on
yeah.
it. Just with, going back to 3B, regarding the other communities, bylaws. So I think, we got a lot of community samples and everything else. Personally, I don't know what the feeling of the group here is. I'd like to see like Uxbridge. We already have Northbridge, we have Sutton.
Yeah, Charlton.
I don't know if we need Charlton. I looked at theirs and it's, yeah, pretty, that and
Yeah.
Abington, I don't think we need theirs or any type of, surrounding towns is always best because we're dealing with the same
Same,
Urban.
same area.
area and urban, you know what I mean, if that makes sense. So,
I think Weston was one of them. Weston,
Yeah,
Weston.
yes, that's a whole
I mean,
different
the
ballgame.
median income in Weston is like
200,000, 300,000?
Yeah, it's pretty-
365,000, that was a couple years ago.
yeah,
Plus they got a lot
And
more
it's-
drainage out there.
Yes, and it's
Oh,
all,
yeah.
it's all,
Yeah.
right, urbanized,
Yeah.
which is, I think that goes back to what we've done. That's primarily what I think this is trying to address. Those communities have
And then
a
the
ton
other,
of catch basins.
the other thing too, when we look at other towns, we don't know where they got their bylaws from.
Correct.
I mean, if we wouldn't have done anything, you know what we'd have had for bylaw. And I bet you none of these other towns have a board like this. Most towns, this stuff all goes through, nobody even knows, people don't show up to meeting, they have no idea, and it just goes through, and nobody knows. We happen to have a few people in this town that watch things.
I compared our bylaw here with some of the bylaws that,
Yeah.
and a lot of
I
it's
did
the
too.
same language.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Right.
things got tweaked a little.
I think
Or adopted pretty fast.
Nick was the one that drafted those in those periods.
Yeah, okay.
And some of them weren't reviewed. I mean, look at the size of some of them.
I guarantee you, none of them were
yeah.
reviewed.
Yeah.
But
Do-
go ahead.
Do we want to take like someone takes like Sutton and reads through theirs for the next meeting and just highlights anything that they want to bring in, or I mean, I'm thinking for the exemptions or any language that's worthwhile.
I'm gonna look through all of them.
Uxbridge-
Take a general overview.
Yeah, no, I'm just.
On all of
Do you
them.
want to take a look at all of them and do you want to take one?
Take a peek.
Yeah.
We'll all take
actually,
one. Divvy it up.
So the Sutton one is an illicit discharge bylaw, which we already have.
Okay.
They don't have a stormwater bylaw
Oh.
that we're trying to do.
Yeah.
So that's a little different.
Okay.
Illicit
Because
discharge.
Sutton isn't in compliance with this yet.
Yeah. No.
So they're still
Yeah.
out of compliance
Right.
also.
I think we got what Northbridge and Uxbridge.
Northbridge has their draft,
Yeah.
but they haven't received an administrative order yet, but it's probably coming.
Well, I pulled one up,
Uxbridge, as far as I know, is approved.
is approved?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, well, here's one, no, this one here is Oxford, okay?
Yep.
So, and they've had this in place for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they have everything, so
Yeah.
it's a lot more involved than what we're trying to do. So we kind of probably want to stay away from some of that stuff.
Right.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if that's, I mean, I'm just really thinking about the language or exemptions and the cases in there that are beneficial to homeowners and.
well, one thing we might want to look at the same time as we look at the different rules is the applications.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, and
I think
sometimes
that
they're
brought up, yeah.
1 or 2 page applications, simplified,
Yeah, that's good.
without getting too crazy.
Well, I read through one, which town was it? I think it was Northbridge. I think they had, say if you had a minor permit, so instead of, because a lot of this is based on like cubes is doing, like this. So they're getting, the average person is getting held to the same standards as a massive facility. So is there a way to have I know that the draft fee schedule has different tiers and for up over an acre to 2 acres or 3 acres, whatever it was, there's X number of dollars. Could you draft could a section be for a minor modification? So a homeowner that just wants to extend his yard or put in a little horse stall or a run-in for kids of some sort, that could just simply simply
Yeah.
file.
So we did a
maybe-
natick, we had a
maybe
minor and a major.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
that would be worthwhile.
that'd make sense.
There's a threshold for like either cubic yard disturbance or acreage,
Yeah.
whatever you wanna do.
But now, we have to trigger over an acre
Yeah.
of
But is it,
disturbance, land clearing, and, whether it's tree removal and
And soil.
soil. So he has to have both, over an acre to trigger this.
does that include the house that's already there, the driveway that's already there, the lawn
this-
that's
It's
already there?
existing,
Do we
yeah.
wanna, well, that's the issue, right? Would you say, because I think there has to be, you know, land disturbance of an acre, let's say you clear the whole acre with, you know, that was done within a calendar year.
That's the question, if I can bring back up, I asked that, if we could get a response on it.
Yeah, I did.
Because if I decide to do, say, 10 quart of firewood this year, 10 quart next year, 10 quart following year, by right, through the state, all of a sudden that could be over an acre. Now, why should I be triggered into something like this?
Yeah, he said there's nothing that gets specific in our permit. Someone's clearing trees once every few years, something like that wouldn't get covered. It's really geared towards large-scale developments like commercial, industrial, or subdivisions. That's kind of a general answer, but
All right.
Yeah.
But what I'm getting at then is, we need to have language where, say you own 4 acres.
Yeah.
You have an acre for your house and everything else, all of a sudden, hey, I wanna clear out back. This year, I'm gonna go clear half an acre of it, let the grass grow, everything else. 2 years later, I'm gonna go clear 3/4 of an acre. Honestly, I've just went over my acre, but that's not gonna trigger this bylaw, according to what
yeah,
you just said.
yeah.
This is for going in one swoop, one time, clear it all and be done with it,
Yeah.
type situations.
Yep.
You know, one of the things.
That way that people understand and know, and that language needs to be black and white in anything that we put out there, because it could get very confusing as far as that goes.
But I think he highlighted a great point, which was there, but I think to your point, Mike, it has to be there is, you know, you're talking commercial development, industrial development, and subdivision, which
Yes
then,
and no, a lot of people have land around here, they have
Correct.
acreage.
I'm saying then would trigger it as a quote, a major, right? Or in that situation, because if you, any one of those three that you've highlighted, it is gonna also trigger the planning board's involvement of site plan review.
Right, that's all.
No, it ain't. Where I live right now.
No.
But you're not in it.
So,
You're not in it, but I'm saying, a commercial project,
That would-
Correct.
Right.
an industrial project.
Well, we need to have the language in, all I'm saying is, we need to have the language in this to spell that out.
Correct.
That's all that I'm
Yeah,
saying.
yeah, yeah. That would be the
How it goes
triggers.
down, whatever, but the language needs to be in here.
Well, that's already in the site plan review, the requirements for that, it's stormwater management.
Correct, but this is all, I'm talking about after the fact. This is all after the fact, which can happen at any time. You could move in, buy your property, you got 10 acres, you built your house.
Yeah.
4 years from now, you decide, I wanna get horses. I wanna blow 4 acres down, put up a barn, put up a fence and have
I
stables.
thought you meant like the solar farm.
No. So this here, by what you're saying, it's over an acre, it could trigger it.
So perfect example, now with this new in-law apartment coming down the pipe.
Yes,
Doesn't need site plan review anymore after
Correct.
February, correct?
Yep.
correct.
So there's a perfect example
Yep.
of somebody coming in, whether they're gonna disturb an acre or not.
Correct.
Quite a bit,
Yep.
but that would bypass you.
Right.
The draft ADU bylaw is proposing site plan review for ADUs. It's getting
What is
rid
it
of, it's
doing?
getting rid of the special permit requirement, but it's proposing site plan review for any and all ADUs.
So you can't sidestep it on a local level.
Yeah.
So
They're
the-
trying to,
By
So
right, but
local-
by site plan approval.
Right, so who's saying it's gotta go through site?
the town wants
Douglas?
to put that, yeah.
That's our draft bylaw.
Right.
Okay, because right now, everybody's learning on this thing, but
Oh,
they're
yeah.
saying as soon as it comes into effect in February, you don't need anything anymore, correct?
Correct.
Is that
No,
correct,
with the way-
unless you have something in place?
But you still have to, though, your septic system and stuff, water health and things could still be involved.
Yes.
No
Right,
different than building a house.
right.
But
But you
Right.
could still clear an acre, you could say, hey, I need to put in a driveway to get there,
Right.
build it and put in
Yeah.
a septic system.
So if you don't have those bylaws in place by the end of February.
That's why they try to throw it in November.
Yeah.
We just got hit with it.
Yeah, we're trying to get it.
Because, yeah, so we,
What?
This is happening
Do you have a
fast. all
copy of
of
that
this.
draft that you have?
I
I'd
don't
like
have
to
it
see
here
I
tonight.
think it's coming
Yeah,
around.
you never have it when I want to see it.
I sent it to you. Oh, I did. I sent it to you before the planning board even saw it. I emailed you.
Oh, I didn't see that one. I'm gonna have to
She's
look
gonna check her
again.
email. Resend it.
You know I'm always
It might be in her
looking for
spam bucket.
I'll resend it right now.
I read every word.
Okay.
And well, speaking of every word, here's the thing too that I noticed in this, if you look on page 4,
Oh, you wanna go into the
on
bylaw?
exemptions, I just wanted to quickly do this. Maintenance of existing landscaping, gardens, or lawns associated with a single-family dwelling. Well, all of this MS4 is in the area that is zoned for two families. And there's a lot of two families in that area. So I think I don't think you can leave that down just to single family. I think it should be single family or duplex dwelling.
Where are
Yeah.
you looking?
Number 2 on page 4.
Maintain existing.
B2 on page 4.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
Omit single.
I
Okay, she's in
think-
she's on the bylaw, yeah.
Yeah,
I know,
I
I
know.
don't think you need to admit, I think you need to add
Yeah.
with a single family or duplex dwelling.
So,
Or, but you could also have them,
Yeah.
duplex or multiple family.
Well, now you're getting into multiple family, now you got a whole different ballgame, we're getting bigger
yeah,
and
she's in the
stuff.
bylaw.
Yeah, but you could have 3 or 4 apartments
So,
in one old
Yep.
house.
I think if we're gonna tackle a bylaw,
Yeah.
I just wanna go over this, because some of the edits didn't make it in the
Okay.
revision.
Okay.
And I wanted to keep on the revision control.
Okay.
So, I just wanna cover, so we're at our last meeting on section 2, first page, underneath the authority,
Yeah,
okay? We did the strikeout, which was added, but then we got the wetland, at the second, paragraph, it's the Wetland Protection Act and regulations, so,
Wetlands Protection Act and the Douglas Wetland Regulations. Sorry.
wetland regs, yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay, that was the conversation, but again, this is just so we have it in here and we can review it. Is there,
So that would only apply if whatever the proposed work was gonna be within the jurisdiction of the conservation, right? Within their
right.
yeah,
requirement.
noting that this bylaw regulation adopts is intended to replace or, to requirements for the bylaws and stuff like that, so. I think that just ties this bylaw into what this sits on what's existing. That doesn't overpower any of those. I just wanna make sure we're mapping.
On the very first sentence of that, under authority,
Yep.
this bylaw is adopted under the granted by the Home Rule Amendment Massachusetts Constitution. So we have a definition of what that is. I know we struck that out, I believe,
Yep.
but just for clarity,
We might be adding that back in. I think
That's-
our understanding of the home rule amendment is a little different than what we talked about our last meeting. Kind of said like home rule allows us to modify this at any time, not outside of town meeting. Home rule amendment allows us to make these bylaws happen in the first place as a community instead of at the state level.
okay, so that would, the Home Rule would apply then at,
Oh, yeah.
on the rules and regulations then, because that can be done.
But on the bylaw, and then any changes still have to go to town meeting.
Well, I noticed that they said that, one of the things said they could amend it, that all they have to have is a public hearing, they could amend these rules and regulations and
Right,
stuff.
so you have the bylaw that has to get approved, then you have another section of,
The regulations can be amended by the planning board with a public
so
hearing.
it's
Right.
important, so it's very important to
Yeah.
make this document as
Yeah.
accurate as possible.
Right.
In the exemptions, what specifically is going to be covered, so the
Yes.
rules and regulations will apply to the exemptions.
Right.
So what regulations could they amend? Could
There's
they?
18 pages of them.
It's in this second document is, again, the policy. I don't think we're gonna get into the policy.
Oh, okay, okay.
Too much.
All right. We will go at
Yeah, we
some
will,
point.
we will. I
Absolutely.
think, agree, but I
Okay.
think, why do you think the home rule needs to be back in here regarding the, home rule amendment because I think the concern is that if you're adopting a bylaw, if it has to be changed, it has to go back before the town meeting.
Yes.
Okay,
That's my understanding. A home rule amendment just allows the towns to make bylaw amendments, and this was done, what, 40s or something, right?
I know, but
Part
I'm
of
just
zoning.
thinking, all the bylaws that we have now doesn't have that language in it.
That's a good point. I noticed that as well.
So-
Okay,
It's just
I was
something that,
curious as to what,
yeah.
just so I get a full understanding of what we're taking on, what we should.
Yeah.
okay. I'll
I'd
get it.
rather leave it out and be more consistent with our current bylaws personally.
I asked town council.
To me, because if it's not in our other bylaws, then adding it in is gonna make everybody wonder what's what.
Is town council gonna review our final draft?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sure.
All right.
See how much money we're saving now? Because we don't have to pay the
Right.
town council to do this.
So, yeah, we struck out that, I'm just looking at the difference.
Yeah, I added agricultural as its own definition.
Okay, so on to page 2, that we did strike out item now E, which was this professional,
Oh, this, yeah.
yeah, so item,
Is that
item E
gone?
is gone.
BCD?
E, we removed that at our first meeting.
Right. I pulled it out of other spots, but I didn't take it out of there.
You're in this, where you compare it to?
Right here. Right here.
Which one?
E, right here.
Okay.
We removed that at our last meeting.
Oh, okay, so that's gone.
I
All
didn't
right,
pull it from the
good.
definition.
Okay.
Certified professional, right,
Certified
okay.
professional, we eliminated that. I just wanna get, and then, the other change that we did do is, sorry, okay, you made the end statement, that's okay.
So under F now, the construction activity, how can this all be worded with what you just said? How can this all get laid out? What would be a good way of doing it?
Could take definitions from other communities and see which one works best. Right? They're all different, every single one of them.
On F, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
So-
just,
Check.
yeah. And I think then, to your point, Mike, what you're highlighting on the construction activity, then what, if you trigger it in your map area and that you're discharging and you're doing the construction activity, then you're gonna fall into that.
But only on initial build. It's after the fact
Yep.
that we have nothing in here for,
Yeah.
to allow people to do it, and they don't have to trigger anything.
Yeah. All right,
One of the questions out there is not to digress from this, but
Yep.
on agricultural use and all the maintenance and improvements in agricultural use as defined by the Mass Wetlands Protection Act, respective chapters, what is "and implementing regulations"? Because I noticed on other bylaws, they didn't have that.
That's in our Douglas wetland regulations. So I can put that. Well, that's a good point. Actually, I don't think that needs to be there. Because it's just a definition. I asked Nick if that should be a
So-
definition that we should amend, and if a
okay,
definition of agriculture should be under
so,
MGL, and he said it makes most sense under that,
okay.
because it's EPA's example, like up in other towns.
So,
what are we gonna strike?
3, yeah, let's be clear. 3A, we're striking out the last line where it says "and implemented regulations."
Yeah.
We're removing that.
So don't the regulations define
It's,
more what the agricultural uses?
I don't know.
310 CMR,
You know better than
10
I.
point, let me, why don't I
okay.
assign that to me, all right, and I'll take a look at
Yeah, that's
that.
gonna be 5 acres.
Hmm.
That
Agricultural.
ML, yeah, it's 5 acres. People don't realize that. It's not your home garden, it's 5 acres. Or you gotta be making money off of it.
I'd just like to know the definition and its implementing
Yeah,
regulations.
look,
Yeah.
I'll look that up,
What are-
okay?
what are-
All right.
Yeah.
You know,
that's all.
to get back to what he said about, you know, how do we figure this out? If you look on, let's see, where was it? On JK, on page 2, JK, any construction activities or land alteration resulting in, if you get rid of total, then you've got it made, resulting in earth disturbance greater than 1 acre. If you take off the word total, then you take off the thing of anything that was pre-done. So
Okay.
just get rid of that one word total. That takes care of everything right there. What do you guys think?
Construction activity, use of land information, disturbances greater than 1 acre. Yes, that would-
Resulting in earth disturbance greater than 1 acre. get rid of the word total.
Cool. And I like the point there. Do we add in, you know, a time frame within a year, you know, 365 days or?
I'll have to ask Nick about that,
Okay.
just because he
All
did
right.
say there's nothing specific in the MS4
All right.
permit.
Is there a chance, Mike, to get a copy? I tried to copy some of these responses and I couldn't.
I got them right here, Mike.
Yeah, they're at the end of your packet.
Are they in the packet? Okay.
Yeah, it's highlighted in,
Yeah, all right. That's okay.
There you go.
And I think they're referring to a lot of that, it's not, if you disturb the soil and within a reasonable time, it's all vegetated. So I think what they're referring, I think what the intent of this is to regulate for impervious areas, that if you disturbed it and obviously paved it, or if it was a bigger building with a roof runoff, things like that, maybe, is that what the,
oh, the look back aspect. So if I did 10
Right.
parking spaces and then next year I do 10 more parking spaces and I intervene.
yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I think I like Carol's idea, if you scratch that word total.
Total out? Yes. Thoughts of the other folks? Good with that? Sure.
You could always throw in that little, at the discretion of the, who's the issuing authority, the planning board.
Well,
Well, this is just the definitions.
this is
Oh,
the
oh,
definition.
okay, okay.
We
Never
can
mind.
add
Yeah,
in
Yeah, sure, yeah.
that in there. And I think,
And I totally agree with what you're saying though, about pervious and non-pervious.
Yeah,
On that aspect. It's one thing to go in and you have land and you're treating it as open land and you're keeping it, you know, pervious so the water can go through it and do its job compared to making a parking lot.
Right.
You know, 3/4 of an acre this year and 3/4 of an
Yeah.
acre next year.
so,
It's
so
two-
I get the point.
They are two different scenarios.
Correct.
But I think if it's kept on the impervious or pervious side,
Yep. No, that's a very,
you know, that's a
point.
good valid point, because, yeah, I could see that, somebody reading it that way and, you know.
well, you know, as devil's advocate here, though, if you're going in and you're redoing the grading and everything, you could be sending the water in a whole different direction. So, I mean, even if you were doing a lawn or something, you could still get in there, regrade and send everything in a different direction. So, I don't know.
yeah.
Not that I want to put any new regulations on
Oh, I
it.
know,
No, no,
I agree, I know,
So
that's what it'll apply.
if we're okay with striking out the word total for now, we can, you know, on Carol's input. The other one that I think, in section 5, I thought we're changing that header, where you get amendments and regulations. Is it, are we gonna put /policy? Because I thought that's what we're pointing towards, this rules and regs. I just wanna use the same terminology if we're pointing to something in the future that we're looking at the stormwater rules and regs, and that's our policy. Or are we gonna leave it as amendments and regs?
Call it Charlton called them their stormwater management rules and regulations.
Okay, so would we retitle section 5 for that?
Amendments.
I mean, when they do amend, what do you mean amend? All of a sudden they decide, oh, we've changed our mind, we're gonna put this on the whole town. Is that the amendment? Can they do that?
Yeah.
Can they make different spaces?
I think they can change some language, and that's why I think it's important in the bylaw to make
Correct.
sure.
Right, but,
That,
but can they amend that? They
Under
come
the
back
rules
in and
and regs,
change,
yes, I think they can.
you know, I think,
Maybe
You know-
just swap those two words, regulations and amendments. It's amendments to the regulations, not the bylaw. Right?
rules, regulations.
Yeah, swap regulations and amendments. So read section 5, regulations and amendments.
I don't know if that says anything different.
It almost seems like when it reads amendments first, it's like amendments to this bylaw.
Correct. So I think we'll probably somehow clarify
Right.
section 5 to say, section 5, you know, amendments to the rules and regs.
Yeah, right,
You mean?
right.
This talks about the adoption of the regulations as part of this chapter, so I feel like section 5, regulations
Mm-hmm.
and amendments to the rules and regulations. Do you want to read it that way? I'll swap it and we'll just look at it next meeting.
Well, I think we might be able to fix it tonight, and I think, so, 7 days in the hearings. So I think this is, reading section 5, you're talking 7 days in hearings and stuff like that. So this is, it's kind of very weird. This is amendments to the stormwater rules and regs.
Yeah.
That's what section 5 is highlighting,
Right.
okay?
Yeah, it's nothing to do with the bylaw.
Nothing to do with the bylaw.
Right.
Correct.
So why would that even be in there?
Because you have to point to the policy.
To let you know what to do.
Okay.
You gotta point to the policy. So I would say, I would retitle it saying amendments to the stormwater
To the regulations.
rules and regs, right?
So I'm kind of hung up on this section allows us to adopt the regulations, not just amend them. Because you can't amend them until they're adopted, right? So this section has the adoption of the regulations. Maybe section 5 just reads regulations.
Well, or maybe you have a 5A and 5B, right? Because your first section is about the adoption, and then underneath there, you could say, when you talk about amendments, where you're highlighting the majority of this information.
I mean, it really doesn't even,
And that, I mean, the stormwater rules and regs. It does call rules and regs.
yeah,
So, why would you?
just call it section 5 rules and regulations. What are you gonna say to the amendments?
Just call it rules and regs.
Rules and regs that you,
Yeah.
okay. Rules and regs, okay. And that points to the rules and regs section, okay. That cleans it up a little bit.
Not to go back in, but on page 9, it says municipal separate stormwater sewer system or municipal storm drain system. So how would the storm sewer system apply to this?
I think that's just,
Under the definition, we don't collect, the sewer systems don't collect or convey stormwater, including any road drainage system.
that's just what MS4 stands for, separate storm sewer system. I don't know why these second definitions in there, but we could ask Nick about that.
Then it also talks about, do we want to,
The MSDS.
I think it talks, you might want to look at the definition of what that's defining, because I think it's not consistent with what we were talking about earlier.
But I also, you're highlighting,
I think it should be including road and drainage system, street, now it's saying gutter, curb, so the curb wouldn't apply. Not necessarily.
again, that's their definition.
Used for
Right.
collecting stormwater.
What-
Including road, other drainage system, street, gutter, curb, inlet, pipe.
Retention and detention basins, so that, they're including that as part of a municipal storm drain system. Which
Well,
that's not-
this, okay, that's this definition,
Right,
but we don't have to include it, correct?
right, that's what I'm
Yeah,
wondering.
okay.
We want to edit that out and just make that just simply what has to be, not all the other things that.
Right.
I think you're highlighting a great point here, because my owned and operated by the town of Douglas is the key here, right? And if we don't, I think this is, I know it's a standard boilerplate definition, but we want to clean up the definitions that match our community. So,
Right,
Just put that in.
right, I would think it would be the definition, meaning the
That there you go.
discharging to the stormwater outfall waters of the U.S. Right. Yeah, so it would be the town of the MS4 drainage system and go to the waters of the U.S. are regulated. Curbs and catch basins do not really matter. It's only based on what can get to the waters of the U.S. through drainage, infrastructure, and/or roadway runoff.
That's it.
okay.
Right.
Because that was in the highlighted portion of,
Right.
So, do you want to capture that?
do we go that way with it?
Yeah.
I mean, the verbiage that was given to us?
Well, I think to know, because if we're tying it to that map, then we've got to make sure that the language is consistent with what the map is to read.
Yeah. And I think, what's also, I mean, when you mentioned about the sewer system, not, you mean, why we don't dump stormwater into the sewer system.
no.
So I'd rather have the definition matches what our town does. That makes sense, Margaret? And this is from Nick, the consultant, and he highlights a great point, that,
And the highlights that he gave us, that's all right there.
Yeah, so we're sure in Douglas, we don't have any cross-contamination between drainage and sewers. They're totally separate.
The only thing we have is infiltration, if you have, say, a pipe's crack, which we do in I&I every once in a while,
Yeah,
and scope the pipes and see if you have, usually a heavy rain event, the flows will increase.
yeah, yeah.
So we try to determine what areas.
It's not because of certain drainage structures
No,
that are
it's
tied
usually-
into the
it's usually
sewer.
people sump pump, the sump
Oh,
pumps,
yeah.
they tie them in,
Yeah.
They
or
tie
if
it into the sewer?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so as far
Yeah.
as Douglas is concerned, it's totally separate.
okay.
You know how a lot of communities
Yes, it's
are.
completely separate.
Yeah.
There's nothing, there shouldn't be anything that, any
Can-
waterways that go into.
So we're gonna update, section I, those changes.
So, yeah.
Do you wanna read it off?
I think we should just take the wording as Nick had it in his email.
Correct.
So just his language.
That's what I wrote.
Okay. All right, I think we covered 5, regarding that. I just, actually, sorry, I wanna go over, where are we?
Now, the applicability, maybe that, again, look at
So,
that.
Section
1
6?
acre there, yes, section 6.
Section
I have the
6.
section 6.
Yep.
And disturbance to an area.
So we did correct, update this where we removed all the zoning areas because we were pointing to a map. So that has been reflected. Would this, I don't know where 6 and 7 came in, underneath, B. Projects and just.
It's kind of, we talked about.
Yeah, the applicability, that should, I think that should actually mimic Nick's email as well. Should simply be
Right.
how he has worded,
Well,
discharge, with the and, discharging into
Mm-hmm.
the town's infrastructure and going into the waters of the US.
Okay.
That's what should be applying.
I added those because under authority,
Yep.
we weren't too keen on the second paragraph. It says intended to replace or be in derogation requirements of zoning, wetlands, subdivision control. So I added it under exemptions, just to belt suspenders kind of
Okay.
approach.
Okay, all right, I just didn't capture that on my notes, so, no, great. Everybody, you see these? Those are underneath exemptions.
Okay.
and not to go back and forth, but on P, on page 2. And then go through all of them.
Sorry. P being the redevelopment, at the bottom?
Oh, where we go
That's
to
for
get
after,
that-
right, so this is all
Get
for
that
after the
total.
fact stuff.
Yeah.
That's what you're gonna check on that? Whether a time frame should be written in on that?
Yeah.
Because right now, just states if you disturb more than an acre,
Right, you got that again, the total business.
but it doesn't give a time.
Yep.
So,
because of that.
so this is where that would come into play, would be on P.
Yep.
That's where, that's on the definition and restraints, or no restraints. And that's where the impervious needs to be looked at,
You can get rid of the word total there
Section?
again.
Yeah,
P.
Okay. So underneath P, do you wanna get rid of the word total?
yeah.
Well, look, Matt's gonna find out first, before we get into that.
So what is the big difference between redevelopment and new development?
Simple.
Impervious, is that?
Well, so it'd be, I own the property 10 years, all of a sudden I wanna do something, like you said, put up in-law apartment, or whatever, it's all after the fact. Or I wanna have horses and build a barn and
So,
make corrals, that's all after the fact.
so is that redevelopment or new development?
Redevelopment, and I already own it.
Because the building's already there.
I already say you already own the land, you already have your house.
But I also think, I mean, I'm glad you attack it from the residential side, but think about the commercial side, you know,
Right.
someone owns a plaza,
Yeah,
right?
You want to put an
They want an
addition.
addition to it.
Yeah.
They're gonna trigger site plan review.
right.
Which is gonna,
But on the residential side, you necessarily wouldn't.
right.
Correct. But also like, so I'm just thinking like the standard commercial area, existing business. If they wanna add on, then are they gonna say, okay, we have to look at the whole area, and now you've gotta trigger, you know, how much, where's your stormwater? But again, I think that's gonna trigger is that property, commercial property, dumping stormwater into the street that runs down and comes to the river? And I think,
And that's where the map all comes into play. If it does, and it's over an acre, then it's looked at. Because that would be,
yeah,
you know, on the commercial side, it's like,
Yeah.
you said it exactly, it's gonna go through site plan review or
Correct.
whatever.
yeah,
But your homeowner
Yeah.
will not go through site plan review on,
Yeah, when I look at this, I just, you know, if I was an applicant and I read the two definitions here, to me, it's kind of confusing. I don't know.
well, the problem is with the redevelopment as a definition means that you've already got something built, and now you're doing any changes to the existing structure.
correct.
I mean, if you tore it
And
down,
on property.
in the property, if you tear it down and rebuild something,
So again, we eliminate the word total, like,
Well, not only that, we're looking at the time.
yeah,
And I don't know, do we need another line in there, one for residential and one for everything else?
I don't think
Or
we're allowed
not?
to do
How does
that.
that all work?
I don't think
I'd
we
say
should allow.
scratch the word total. And then redevelopment. And that way there it doesn't.
you don't
it's not
trigger
gonna-
it
It's
up.
not gonna trigger that.
Right.
Okay. And yeah, at some point, we may want to turn around and just say, to protect residents, you know, that, you know, some residential exemptions in there to say, you know, if you're building a house and you get a septic system, and you don't want to,
I think that goes into.
Yeah.
what we
You know what I mean?
talked about earlier,
But you're not seeing the whole picture, it's saying you're disturbing an acre.
Right.
What I'm getting at is, I'm gonna say it again, over what time span? If you do it over 3, 4, 5, 6 years on your own property that you have your house on, do you have to file this? According to what Matt's saying, no.
correct. No, and I
But
think
there's no verbiage in here stating that.
Right.
So we need to find the verbiage to get that in here. And so people know when they read it, what you can and can't do. On the pervious, non-pervious, that's a big issue, totally agree.
yeah,
But your commercial business, you're gonna go, if you're gonna put an addition on to add another
Yep.
whatever, you're gonna go through site plan review. Your resident is not,
yeah,
and you shouldn't have to,
Yep.
if, by what Matt just said, you fall under those guidelines, you're gonna disturb maybe more than an acre, but it's gonna take maybe 3 years to do it.
You know what? I can see, you gotta be careful when you write this, because all you're gonna do is wave a red flag. A red flag at them not to allow any of this stuff here.
Well, that's why
Yeah.
we
So
need to
you
be
can
clear on it.
And you can't like be different between, it's an acre, it's an acre.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any difference if it's a homeowner or if it's a business. An acre is an acre, and that's
Mm-hmm.
what they're looking at.
Yeah.
So we can't say, oh, we don't have to do that because you're residential.
No, so
That's
you're.
not what I said.
Yeah, so an acre is an acre, so an acre triggers it.
Right.
So then the question is, okay, is it new development or redevelopment?
Right.
So I know under the wetlands regs for
Right.
redevelopment, it comes into the, any new impervious area. If
Right.
you're adding new impervious area, that's new development.
Okay.
But Carol, that's not the point. What I'm saying is this, you own 3 acres of land,
Right,
you have a house on 1
Right.
acre.
right.
When you built it, or whatever, you only cleared 10 feet under an acre, so you
Right.
never came and you didn't trigger
Right,
this.
right.
5 years from now, you said, you know, I wanna have some horses.
Right.
I got land in the back, I'm gonna clear it.
Right.
I'm gonna go this year, clear 3/4 of an acre. You're not gonna trigger this. Next year, or 2 years from now, I'm gonna finish the other 3/4 of an acre.
I know what you're saying.
So you just did over an acre, but you didn't do it all at once, so
Right, but
do
what I'm
you,
saying
don't you
is
trigger
that's
it?
how people will get around it, and that's gonna raise a red flag right at whoever, the powers that be.
But he just said you can.
so, hold on, I think, Margaret, you made a valid point. What happens, we take out the word, okay, we took out the word, total. whenever you say new in that instead of total, new earth disturbance greater than an acre. Okay?
I mean, if we're
It's-
confused here, what do you
No, no,
think the public's gonna do?
No, but the word new, no, but the word new in a redevelopment means,
Yeah.
okay, you're already there and now you're disturbing, okay, a new earth disturbance.
Right. I think
So,
that's,
so that, new is better than
Yeah.
anything because it's new,
right.
okay? I mean, Margaret made a valid point that aligns with other regs.
Yeah.
And that way there, it's a lot cleaner.
Right.
So you eliminate any look back with the word new.
Right.
And you don't, if you want to do a barn on the 1 acre, then it's, it's a new, and it doesn't affect the house. And you're not doing a look back of what was
See,
built on the house.
you still, so I do 3/4 of an acre and I build a barn. 2 years from now, I'm gonna clear another 3/4 of an acre. Do you trigger it? Yes or no?
It says,
You might.
So that's what I'm getting at. Do you trigger it? You've cleared an acre and a half,
correct,
but not at the same time,
which is why,
years apart.
correct. And that's why in the word new
Right.
would say, you didn't do it in this year. I mean,
Well, we have to set a year, and that's
Yeah.
what Mike's saying.
Yeah.
Can we do that?
Correct.
So we'll find out.
Yeah.
all right. Good point. Just trying to think what other changes that were. picked up.
I think, Matt, you said you want to check into the minor.
Yep.
And-
We could definitely do 2 different permit
Yeah,
applications.
because I think if you look at our rules and regs, kind of,
Yeah.
what triggers, what they have to go through
Right.
for requirements, submittal,
Yeah.
and you're gonna spend $10,000
Oh, yeah.
So-
on submittal, so I think that we try to separate the minor and the, like I said, the average homeowner goes in.
Right.
Yep.
He just wants to do a small, and they don't have to go through the rigorous
Yeah.
permitting as a large,
And
Yep.
not pay all the money, too.
So-
right.
Section 9B, last sentence, we talked about removing the erosion control.
Oh, yeah, my,
Sorry,
Yeah,
just looking at the comparisons.
Yep.
Just trying to compare from
Yep.
there. And then I think in section 11, we talked about adding in planning board's right to reduce or waive.
What did we put up to, right?
Yep.
It was regarding the civil crimes and everything like that is giving,
Oh, so, okay.
yeah, the planning board's right, or however we want to say it, may have,
Yeah, they can waive the,
correct. To, reduce,
right,
or waive.
right.
You good with that?
Yep.
Okay. That was just, and I think there was first meeting. Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to get us caught up to where we were with it.
That was what Margaret, we had talked about that last meeting, like you were saying, the lady that had the trailer that getting charged $300 a day, and you got somebody that's got,
Right.
Yeah.
it's got a building that's getting charged
Correct.
$300 a day.
Right, yeah.
So I just want to make sure
How
those
do you,
changes.
how do you,
Yeah, like you said, the guy with the chickens or whatever, they're going
Yeah,
after
and
him,
the guy with the
poor
big
guy.
building,
Yeah, I know.
he knew
Loses his
that.
house over some
The poor lady
chickens. It's crazy.
with the trailer had no idea.
right.
So I think we got some questions back to
Yep.
to Nick.
Yep.
Some edits. Or take a look at Uxbridge's bylaw. I think we're gonna drop Charlton's. If there's anything worthwhile in there, but take a look at Uxbridge's and Northbridge. Sutton doesn't have a bylaw, so
Correct.
that makes that easier.
So which ones were we gonna take a look at? They're in our packet?
I think we're missing Uxbridge.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Uxbridge, I think, Northbridge, I think Northbridge did get sent out to us.
Yeah, Northbridge is in here.
Mark, you didn't think there was anything worthwhile maybe in Oxford?
Well, I just, there might be some language or something, but like I
Okay.
said, it's been in place,
Okay.
play for a few years now, and it's pretty extensive, so.
Okay.
We don't want to be extensive.
But I do know their applications are like 1 or 2 pages.
right.
So, to use
Yeah.
as an example, that's
Yep.
all.
I guess, is there any other changes? We can bring it forward to the next meeting, but on the bylaw itself, I think once we get those edits and those items there, we could take another look at that.
Just if I get a clarity on one, just Matt, on the exemptions on the six, where you put, projects that are jurisdictional by the Douglas Conservation Commission and require stormwater management. So that still will leave them, they would exempt from the stormwater, section, but still have to go to Concom.
Some projects might not need stormwater management
Right.
under Concom,
Yeah.
so those wouldn't,
Okay.
unless they're disturbing over an acre, of course.
Yep.
But, and same thing with the site plan. Some special permits, it's just like two-family structures.
Yeah.
They don't trigger it, and they don't require stormwater. So that's why I put and requires, not or, but and requires stormwater management.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
On the, what's it? Did you get on yours, on the single-family dwelling, did you change that? The one you spoke about earlier?
Yeah, I don't, did you write that down? It should be single family.
How did you want to word that on B? On number
Where was
6B, number 2?
Number 2, yeah. So there's single family
Blew it
or
up.
duplex
It
dwelling,
says single-family, but there's more than single-family,
Oh,
or
yeah.
two-family dwelling. or
or
something.
however the verbiage should be. Or two, or multi, or however.
Well, I think we're getting into multi, like if somebody comes in with a 40B and is doing a whole, you know.
Yeah, no, I
doing a big
understand.
condo project, I
Correct.
think they should, I don't know, what do you think, Dan?
Would you say existing in there?
Which number was that?
Existing, yeah, you say
Yeah.
existing
Existing,
landscaping?
Oh,
Yeah.
is that
It
the
show-
right?
it only says single-family,
Okay,
it
it's
doesn't say
existing
like
landscaping,
duplex or
yeah.
anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so,
To include other,
or, s-
what were you saying, Les?
I think multifamily is, says, maintenance of existing landscaping, gardens, lawns, associated areas with a single family, I'd say
These are existing.
residential
What do you say,
dwellings.
residential living areas
About
up
residential
to so many?
dwellings. It's existing, for one thing, it's
Oh,
No, but
existing.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's my trigger
So that's the
is,
part, it's existing.
Or
It's-
just
we don't have any
eliminate
big condos.
single, just have dwelling. Maintenance of existing landscape gardens on any family dwelling. Or not. How would you word it?
Residential.
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 Residential dwelling?
Residential
Residential
Yeah, there you go.
dwelling.
dwelling,
And I think the key is existing is,
right, and existing is there, we don't have any big projects in.
That way you're not just picking on a single or duplex or whatever, it's
well,
residential.
Hayward Landing, right? It's already there and they're cutting the lawn and everything else.
Right.
I mean, they're already existing, they're already landscaping.
I'll say residential dwelling and then in parentheses S, right, dwellings.
Dwellings, yeah,
Yeah,
okay. That's right, okay. That's what Carol wanted to add.
yeah.
So I guess we'll wait for those edits. And, I guess the next section is 3D regarding the stormwater regs. I don't think we're ready to, personally, I'm not ready to dive into this until
Yeah,
we get an idea of the map. I think we need a chance to digest this.
yeah,
You know what I mean? It's fairly new, I don't think we've seen it in the meeting and discussed it in the meeting forum. But I think that my only thing is the definitions that are in here
Oh, yeah, they'll be consistent.
should be aligned with the definitions in here.
Yeah, as we update these, I'll
Okay.
update these as well.
Yeah, 'cause if you read the definitions and the rules and regulations, there's certain ways that they must apply somewhere.
Yeah, we want them to match up.
If you're looking at some wetlands, that's some,
Okay.
Mass General law, it may have that wording in it, so we'd like to know what that's applying to. You know what I mean? There's a definition, the rules and regs, but it has to be somewhere in the bylaw.
Totally agree.
That it applies to.
Yeah, totally agree.
And I think probably for our next meeting, maybe we look at the, we'll refresh the bylaw, but look at the policy more and take a pass at that as a group.
Yeah.
So everybody gets a chance, well, now we got a hard copy of it, people get a chance to read it.
There are some other exemptions I would like to
Yeah.
put in, I don't have them exactly,
Yep.
how I would like to word them yet, but I did read some that I thought were
Yeah.
interesting.
And it-
Uxbridge's bylaw.
For next week.
Yeah.
And I think the, you know, the rules and regs, if we, since we're doing the bylaw as a group here and a committee, if we update the rules and regs to kind of match, it'll probably easier for than when we hand it off to the planning board to say, hey, this is where we left off. I mean, this is what we weighed in on, you know, and make, that way there, the planning board has something to go by that's been, you know,
Yeah,
revised.
we've got the two of them kind of matched up. Say,
Yeah.
here you go,
Yeah.
run with it.
Yeah,
Finish it up to get it to town
yeah,
meeting.
take a look. Well, this doesn't, this is after town meeting, so at least gives them the rules, the policy, the rules and regs is after town meeting.
By the way, when is the November town
But I
meeting?
thought you said you wanted to have
Have
it
we
all,
figured that one
have it
out
all
yet?
It
before,
is.
so it's all done at one time.
Agree.
Let's see.
That's why we gotta start looking at this.
I think it's the
Right,
18th.
yeah.
Yeah,
Or the
then we're not,
19th.
we're not.
It's Monday.
Yeah, let's be clear, we're not targeting the November town meeting
Okay.
for this.
No, I know.
No,
but-
no.
I mean, Carol, don't scare
But,
people at
well,
home.
you know,
You know?
fall town meeting.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Everybody agrees we can do the rules and regs at the
I
next
think they're
meeting?
setting town meeting tonight
Okay.
at Selectmen.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Oh, they hadn't said it yet. That's why it wasn't on the,
Yeah.
good reason why it
Okay.
wasn't
Well,
on the website.
good deal. I think we have
Did you-
minutes in the
On section 8, the entry to form these, would you have to check to see if, I know the Board of Selectmen had drafted their policy on any boards going on people's private property. I think we should probably reference what the town existing policy is on, like for Concom or planning board or whoever may, if it wants to, anybody. That if they're gonna go on somebody's property, there's a certain requirement they have to do. Because there was one instance where I was telling you that they gentleman got removed because they just showed up on someone's
Yeah,
property.
right.
Yeah, I think you brought,
So-
yeah, brought that up at the last.
So I think the selectmen at that time corrected that and said we need to have a policy and they put it in place on what needed to be done for the boards and commissions.
What
to
is,
go.
what is that policy?
I don't know.
I think
That's
it's the
what I was
verbiage.
asking.
I think it's the
It's been a
verbiage
while.
that has to be in there.
It's what?
So,
I think what he's highlighting is just adding, making sure we have the similar verbiage that is in the.
so it's consistent with what was approved.
Sure, sure.
Right,
Yeah,
what I'm trying to-
Yeah,
Yeah.
so everybody's the same across the board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we're good. Item 4 on our agenda, the items or topics, 24 hour in advance that we need to cover.
Thank you, Matt, for the responses.
Yeah, sure.
And they help. I
Yeah.
mean, we're reading them. So,
I don't think we get the minutes yet for the 16th.
No, we don't.
So we're gonna skip over that. And I think, that's where we are.
motion to
Appreciate it.
adjourn.
If I can't find on the bylaw for the accessory apartments, I'll call you tomorrow. maybe
I
we can-
forwarded it to you again.
Oh, you
While
did?
we're
Oh,
sitting
goody,
here.
goody.
I sent it on the 16th.
Really?
All right, motion by Mike, second by Dan. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion adjourned. All right, appreciate everybody's time.